When you are attempting to determine a payment for a loan, and then when you're calculating how much interest you've paid total, you could use some formulas for payment. Now, I will say that there are calculators that'll do this for you also. There's a calculator called a business calculator or a payment calculator, and a lot of times mortgage broker will use that calculator, but all that calculator is doing is inputting this formula. So here's and let me say one more thing, that there are a number of different versions of a formula. So different ways you could look at a formula and it's still giving you the same value. It's calculating the same thing with different versions of a formula. But here's an example. If you wanted to finance a $23,000 car with a 2% interest rate for 6 years, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start by writing the formula. I kind of cheated by just copying and pasting it here. But I would encourage you on your paper to write that formula out. And then let's write out all the information we know. So here's the formula I found from our book. And we even get such a nice description of what each item is. So the principal is P, the amount for the loan is $23,000. The interest rate of 2%, I've changed it to a percent by taking 2 and dividing by 100 or moving the decimal 2 to the left. N is the number of payments in a year. That's 12 monthly payments, so N is 12. And we're told that it's for 6 years, so time is 6. And I'm going to add that the total number of payments is going to be 12 payments times 6 years, or in other words, N times T, which is 72. And then when I go to continue this problem, so notice what I've done. I've started with the formula, and then I've listed what I'm going to input to the formula. I know sometimes students like to skip that step, but if you're not getting this correct 100% of the time, just take that extra 30 seconds, maybe a minute at the most, if you're writing really slowly, to do this step. And then we're going to write out the formula, the payment formula, inputting each of these values. So in place of principal, 23,000, R over N. Now when I put that on my calculator, 2 100ths divided by 12, it doesn't give me a rational number. It keeps repeating. So I'm going to leave it 0.02 divided by 12 because it's better to not round until we get to the very end. And then 1 plus 0.02 divided by 12. And this 1 plus 2 100ths divided by 12 is what's raised to the 72, or the N times T, total number of payments, exponent. And then we're going to divide that whole thing by 1 plus 0.02 over 12 to the 72 minus 1. Now, let me say that most of the time when students get this far, what's going on is that the inputting this into the calculator isn't going well. It's the how you're inputting it that's causing a problem. Let me add some parentheses here. Say that there is an implied set of parentheses for the numerator and the denominator because the fraction bar acts like a grouping symbol. So here's what I put into my calculator. I did the numerator and I started with the order of operations with this piece that had the exponent to it. So I started in my calculator with finding this sum. And to find the sum, I have to start with the division. So I did 2 100, so 0.02 divided by 12. And then I added 1 to it. And then I asked the calculator to give me an answer, and I raised that answer to 72. And then I multiplied that by 0.02 divided by 12. And then I multiplied that by 23,000. Now, although it's best to wait and round at the very end, what I've written here, just so you can double check that you're getting that intermittent step correct, is I wrote that out with all the decimal places that my calculator gave me. So this is what I got when I put that into the calculator. But what I would then do is I would ask the calculator to take that answer and say divided by, and I'm going to put parenthesis 0.02 divided by, oh, I'm sorry, double parenthesis, right? So this blue parenthesis and then parenthesis 0.02 divided by 12 plus 1 raised to the 72 power. And oh, I didn't say it, but you have to put the parenthesis after that plus 1, right? So that we got just this piece, raised to the 72. And then I close the parentheses, raised to 72 minus 1. And then I close the final parenthesis and ask it for the answer. And what it's going to be doing for me is it's going to take this whole numerator and divide it by the whole denominator and should give me something close to this. Now, I checked this on my calculator to see if I did each the numerator and denominator separately and kept the entire set of decimal places. So it's rounded. That's why I'm saying the payment is approximately, not exact, but approximately this amount. Each of the numerator and denominator are rounded, but even doing that, because I've gone so far out in the decimal place, I still get the correct answer. Now, fine print reminds us that we can't just round this to the nearest cent and say, oh, okay, so my payment is $339.26. Do you see that if you made that payment 72 times, you'd come up a little short because you'd be short some small amount every payment, and that would add up after 72 payments. So for payments, we always have to round up. And when I round up, I'd get $339.27. And there's our payment, and that is in fact correct. Now, after that, I could use that payment, but let me say, you've done all this work, and if that work wasn't correct, if this payment amount wasn't correct, then your Part B and Part C are going to be incorrect also, right? So put this new payment in times 72 payments to see that over the life of the loan, how much do you pay all together? And if you want to find out how much of that total that you've paid, that Part B, how much by the end of the loan, how much have you paid all together, how much of that was interest and fees, then we could subtract the principal, the $23,000 from that to get the total amount of interest paid. Well, I hope that this short video helps you better understand this type of a problem. But if you do have a further question about this or even other examples, please reach out to me, and know that online doesn't mean you're on your own. I'm here to help you answering questions or guiding you with any of the content that you need a little bit more guidance with. And thank you to the student who was brave enough to send this question in. I hope that you especially found this example to be helpful.